phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
When talking about college football recruiting, the players that seem to always get all the hype surrounding their names are the 4-stars and, of course, the 5-star recruits. These are the players that are seen as the best in the nation. They have the best potential, the most upside. They're going to be dogs on the college football level no matter what, and that's how they're usually talked about in high school. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every 5-star recruit, every 4-star player is necessarily going to translate their game from high school to the college level the best. With that being said, in today's video, I am going to be talking about 5 highly touted recruits who didn't live up to the hype that they had coming out of high school. Now, before I move on with today's video, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. The first player that I am going to be talking about in today's video comes from the 2014 class. He was a 5-star, number 10 player in the nation, number 1 wide receiver, and it was Speedy Noil. Now, Noil was a very highly touted prospect, being a top 10 player. He ran a 4.4 40-yard dash and had a 45-inch vertical in high school. He held offers from schools like LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, Auburn, Florida State, and many more, and he decided to go to Texas A&M. When Speedy first got to Texas A&M, it did not take long for him to take off. As a true freshman in 2014, he had 46 receptions for 583 yards, averaging 13 yards per reception, and 5 total touchdowns through the air. This was a great freshman campaign. It really seemed like A&M fans were in for something special with Speedy Noil after seeing his freshman campaign. But the next 2 years that Noil spent at Texas A&M, it was nothing like his freshman campaign. As a sophomore, he had 226 receiving yards on the season and 2 touchdowns. In 2016, his final season there, he had 21 receptions for 325 yards, averaging 15 yards per reception and 2 total touchdowns, and he would declare for the 2017 NFL Draft, ending his career at Texas A&M, where he had 88 receptions for 1,134 yards and 9 total touchdowns in his career. Noil would go on to be undrafted in the 2017 NFL Draft, as his stock really did not take off after his freshman year, and there really wasn't a ton of production from him in his time at Texas A&M, and there were some questions about him with some slight off-the-field stuff while an Aggie. After going undrafted, he would have a tryout with the Green Bay Packers, but he would never sign with them. He would eventually sign with the Seattle Seahawks, but nothing ever really came of it. He would then face some off-the-field issues in his time away from Texas A&M and the NFL. He last played for the Spokane Shock of a pro indoor football league. With this next player, he comes from the 2015 recruiting class, played on the defensive side of the ball, ranked as a 4-star, number 86 player in the nation, number 2 inside linebacker, DeBerry. Ricky had a total of 49 offers coming out of high school. He held offers from schools such as Oklahoma, Alabama, Michigan State, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Clemson, Florida, Kansas State, and many more. He would decide to go to Oklahoma. DeBerry would spend a total of 3 seasons at the University of Oklahoma, only playing in 6 games. He would redshirt as a true freshman in 2015, and he was climbing up the depth chart, but then he had a prolonged illness that eventually just kept him down in the lower depth chart range, which really affected play time, and he eventually even switched sides of the ball, moving from linebacker to H-back. After his time at Oklahoma, DeBerry would end up transferring to Towson, where he would be an immediate impact player for the Tigers. In 2018, he played in 11 games, had 34 total tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery. In 2019, unfortunately, he would end up only playing in 1 game and suffering a season-ending injury in which he had 8 total tackles, 5 solo, and 1 tackle for loss in that season. He was supposed to play in 2020, but Towson did not play a 2020 season due to what was happening in the world at the time. He would end his career at Towson with 42 total tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery. On to this next player. He comes from the 2016 recruiting class. It's quarterback Jarrett Guarantano. He ranked as a 4-star number 79 player in the nation and the number 7 quarterback but number 1 dual threat quarterback in the nation. He held a total of 31 offers coming out of high school from schools such as Tennessee, Alabama, Arizona State, Auburn, Clemson, Louisville, LSU, and even Oklahoma. He would decide to go to Tennessee. Jarrett would spend a total of 5 seasons as a volunteer at Tennessee, including a redshirt season in the 2016 college football campaign. As a 5-year player there, 4 years actually playing, he recorded 6,174 passing yards, completing 61% of his passes, 38 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions. His best year when talking about consistency may have been 2018, as he had his least amount of interceptions. He threw for nearly 2,000 yards, throwing 1,907, completing 62% of his passes, 12 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. But to keep a long story short, he wasn't really anything that special at Tennessee. In fact, many people thought he was kind of bad. He would then transfer to Washington State for his final year of college football eligibility for the 2021 college football season. This was his last chance to really impress people, as a lot of people were doubting Jarrett and really didn't think he lived up to any of the hype that he had coming out of high school, as he really wasn't that impressive at Tennessee. This was quite literally his last shot to wow people in his college football game. At Washington State, his 1 season there, he was only able to play in 2 games, where he completed 67% of his passes, threw for 304 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. In the 2022 NFL Draft, he went undrafted, but he did have a tryout with the Arizona Cardinals, and he's officially signed with the team. With this next player, he also comes from the 2016 recruiting class. It is wide receiver Tyree Cleveland. He ranked as a 4-star, number 34 player in the nation, and the number 3 wide receiver in his class. He held a total of 22 offers from schools such as Florida, Arizona State, Arkansas, Oklahoma, TCU, Houston, Texas A&M, and Alabama, among many more. He would end up going to Florida. Let me start off by saying this. Tyree Cleveland, he did not have a bad career at Florida by any means. He just didn't have the career that many people thought he was going to have. But when talking about him at Florida, he was there for a total of 4 seasons, and he was an immediate impact player. In his 4-year career as a Gator, he recorded 79 receptions for 1,271 yards, averaging 16 yards per reception, and 8 total touchdowns through the air. His best season came in 2017 as a sophomore, where he recorded a total of 22 receptions for 410 yards, averaging nearly 19 yards per reception, and 2 total touchdowns through the air. In the 2020 NFL Draft, Tyree Cleveland was taken in the 7th round by the Denver Broncos. Cleveland has been in the NFL with the Broncos since 2020, and his NFL career up to this point, he has 6 receptions for 53 yards, and he's returned a total of 234 yards in his career up to this point. On to the final player in today's video. He comes from the 2017 recruiting class. It is Lebrian Ray. In this class, he ranked as a 5-star, number 28 player in the nation, and the number 2 strong side defensive end. He had a total of 30 offers from schools such as Alabama, Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Arkansas, Cincinnati, Auburn, Michigan, and many more, and he would end up choosing Alabama. Lebrian Ray would play for Alabama for a total of 5 seasons from 2017 to 2021. His career was not bad by any means, and unfortunately for Lebrian Ray, most of the time that he was at Alabama, for the seasons he was there, he always seemed to be battling some sort of injury issue, and it was always something that kept him out for a long time. In his career as a member of the Crimson Tide football team, he recorded 76 career tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, 2 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble. His most healthy and biggest season for the Crimson Tide came in 2018 as a sophomore, where in 13 games played, he recorded 39 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 2 pass deflections. In the 2022 NFL Draft, he would go undrafted, but he would then sign with the New England Patriots. Well guys, if you made it this far in the video, drop down any future videos you want to see on this channel, and before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly, out.